Okay, great. Thank you very much. It looks like interpretation is on. So I'll give everybody a minute to switch to the appropriate channel. All right. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Shoot. Okay, so there's two ways to view this presentation. There are English slides and there are Spanish slides. At the top of your screen, you'll see two tabs. It'll say English presentation screen and La Presentación en Español screen. So you can click those to see Spanish slides, or you can see those to see, or you can click on the English to see the English slides. So give everybody a little bit to get to the correct slides. Okay. All right. Before we get started with the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to the Deputy Director for Monitoring and Mitigation, Madison Lee, for an opening statement. Go ahead, Madison.
Thank you, Daniela. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Madison Lee, Deputy Director for Monitoring and Mitigation at DPR. I want to welcome you to today's meeting on DPR's proposal to expand the air monitoring network. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge something that has been central in our conversations with community members and with our own staff. Air monitor is not just a technical topic. It touches on issues that people care deeply about, including public health, transparency, and trust. We recognize that there is a long-standing interest in expanding monitoring, and this proposal moves this work forward. We appreciate the ongoing conversations with interested parties, community groups, advocates, and individuals on our air monitoring program and continuous evaluation of pesticides. This expansion represents a major step forward. The proposal will more than double our long-term monitoring stations across the state and add a new mobile platform to help us assess conditions in more places and in more flexible ways. Thanks to new ongoing funding through the state budget, we have the opportunity to do work that many inside and outside the department have been interested in expanding for years. The purpose of today's meeting is to focus specifically on the AMN expansion proposal, how we identify priority locations, and how your input can shape the final decisions. Air monitoring is part of DPR's broader work to continuously evaluate pesticides and protect people and the environment, and we often have questions come up related to actions underway at the department. Because we have limited time, if questions come up that are not directly about this proposal, we'll note them and try to help identify the right places to follow up. What we are presenting today is part of a long-term effort to expand useful and available data that supports DPR's continuous evaluation of pesticides and to transparently and clearly provide that data to the public. The team presenting today is committed to sharing information respectfully, accurately, and openly, values that we know are shared across the department. Thank you again for taking the time to be here. We look forward to hearing your perspectives, and we appreciate your engagement as we work to expand and improve air monitoring in California. I'll now turn it over to our technical team to walk through the proposal in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison, for that introduction. We can go to the next slide. So good evening, everyone. My name is Aniela Barant, and I am the manager of the AIR program. I'm here today to talk about the expansion of the air monitoring network and the new prioritization framework by which DPR will select sites for monitoring and expansion. I'm going to go over this presentation and then I'm going to ask that everybody save questions to the end. There's going to be two ways that people or the attendees can ask questions. The first is through the raised hand function, and the second is through the Q&A box at the bottom of Zoom. You can ask questions from both the raised hand function verbally or in the Q&A box in English or Spanish. If if you have any questions or issues with technical issues with Zoom, you can use the chat function and our team will help you with any issues that you might have. So please do not use the chat function to ask any questions because we're just saving it for the two, or it might get lost and we're only using raised hand and Q&A box for those questions. Okay, with that, we can get started. So I'm going to be going over a lot of information over the next 30 minutes or so. So I've provided this agenda to help guide us through the presentation. First, I'm going to give an introduction to the air monitoring network. I will then discuss the three components by which we are expanding the air monitoring network. The bulk of the presentation will be focused on the third component of this expansion, which is the technical framework for selecting these sites. I will then end with the results of this process and present the top options for inclusion in the AMN. These are the top ranked counties and communities in our site selection process. I'll end with questions that DPR has posed to the public to help us select 4 sites for the AMN. I'll then give everybody the opportunity to ask questions. Next slide, please. Let's start with the introduction to DPR's air monitoring network. Next slide. The Air Monitoring Network provides DPR with data on pesticides in ambient air that allows for the long-term assessment of potential pesticide exposures in agricultural communities with high pesticide use. The AMN monitors 35 pesticides and 5 breakdown products in the ambient air weekly. Next slide. Currently, there are 5 AMN sites and 1 planned expansion. We are currently monitoring in Oxnard and Ventura County, Santa Maria in Santa Barbara County, Shafter in Kern County, and Pajaro in Monterey County. For those of you who are more familiar with the AMN, you may notice that the site here does not say Royal Oaks. We sometimes called it Watsonville also, and that's because the site was moved from its previous location in Ohlone Elementary School a few miles away to its current location at Pajaro Middle School. The site was moved because the new location better fits our siting criteria, and based on community input, it is a better location for sampling within that township. Our team started monitoring there in early January. Our 13D long-term monitoring location was converted to an AMN station in Delhi, and we started monitoring for all 40 analytes in the AMN in early January. We are also planning on converting the Parlier 13D monitoring site to a full monitoring station once we secure a school site in Fresno County. We've collected data at all of our long-term monitoring sites for well over a decade. So we've been in Oxnard, Santa Maria, Shafter, and in that township in Pajaro, or in Monterey County since 2010 or 2011. And we've been monitoring in Merced County and Fresno County for almost a decade. That kind of long-term data collection is invaluable. There are few places across the country or the world with that kind of long-term data set. Next slide. We test for 40 analytes as part of the air monitoring network. These include the fumigants, including 1,3-D, chloropicrin, MITC, and methyl bromide, organophosphates, carbamates, and organochlorines, and various herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides. I'd like to note that we do monitor for some pesticides that are no longer registered with the state of California. These pesticides are part of our larger analytical screens, so we still gather this data. Next slide, please. To help provide context to the prioritization framework by which we are selecting sites and expanding the air monitoring network, I wanted to provide the objectives of the air monitoring network. The objectives are to 1, monitor pesticides in the air and determine seasonal, annual, and multi-year concentrations. 2, compare concentrations to acute, subchronic, and lifetime screening levels or regulatory targets. These targets help us identify exposures that need additional investigation. 3, to track temporal variations in pesticide concentrations in the air. And then 4, to estimate cumulative exposure to multiple pesticides with common physiological modes of action in humans, such as the cholinesterase inhibitors. I want everyone to keep these in mind as we go through the rest of the presentation. Our prioritization framework, and therefore the sites we select, must help us accomplish these objectives. Next slide, please. Okay, now let's get into the expansion of the air monitoring network. Next slide. Excuse me. In 2024, DPR received additional funding from the legislature to permanently expand our air monitoring efforts. I want to emphasize the word permanent here. We've had temporary expansions of the air monitoring network in the past, but the money we received from the legislature is for a permanent expansion. I'd also like to note that monitoring and maintaining these stations is expensive. We're looking for ways to maximize how we spend the funds we received to deploy the most amount of monitoring, and this is what our team has determined that we can do with what we were provided. The expansion has 3 components. First, the existing 1,3D monitoring stations will be or have been converted to full AMN stations. We will introduce a mobile monitoring platform and will introduce 4 new monitoring stations. The target date for expansion to get all of this up and running is by the end of 2027. As part of the AMN expansion, DPR has updated its site selection procedure to reevaluate California communities to identify potential new monitoring sites. While I will be touching on all aspects of the expansion here today, the focus of this presentation will be on the updated site selection procedure and the process by which we are proposing options for the addition of 4 new monitoring sites. Next slide. Let's start with reviewing component 1 of the air monitoring network expansion. Touched on this earlier, but I wanted to remind everyone that we are in the midst of converting our existing stations. Delhi has been converted into an AMN station as of January of this year, and we are currently in the process of converting our Parlier site to a full AMN station in Fresno County. Next slide. Component 2 of the air monitoring network expansion is the deployment of a mobile monitoring station. DPR is currently procuring and building this mobile monitoring station, and this mobile monitoring station can be quickly deployed to locations throughout California. We can deploy the station to either conduct a seasonal study where we take daily weekday samples anywhere in California for a period of weeks or months, or we can deploy it for up to a year. This is different from the AMN stations because those stations give us data over a period of years. The mobile monitoring station will be equipped with our standard sampling equipment, which is our standard sampling instrumentation and a weather tower. And we have weather towers located at all of our sites. And then as a reminder, this station will take time to procure and build. Next slide. Okay, now let's get into component 3, which is the addition of 4 new monitoring sites to the AMN. Next slide. The focus of the rest of the presentation will be on the AMN framework for prioritization. Next slide. Okay. Okay, so the framework by which we are selecting sites for inclusion in the air monitoring network has quite a few steps. So what we're going to do here is give a broad overview of the steps of this community prioritization procedure in a flow chart. After I go over this in this flow chart, I'll then go through each of these steps in detail on the next slides. Okay, so next animation, please. So first, the step one, based on the 2020 census, we obtained a list of 1,611 communities in California. Next animation. After that, in step two, we extracted pesticide use data from the pesticide use reporting database. In step two, we did some technical adjustments to the pesticide use data to provide a ranking of communities that reflects real-world emissions. Next animation. In step three, we excluded the 6 counties where we already have monitoring sites. Next animation. In step four, we narrowed down our communities to 2 lists, a top 50 list based on fumigant use and a top 50 list based on organophosphate use. Next animation. In step five, those 50 sites were reprioritized based on Cal EnviroScreen's population characteristics score. Next animation. Finally, in step six, communities were removed from the community prioritization procedure if they did not have any schools within a 1 mile radius and were ranked higher if there were other communities ranked within a 10-mile radius. This procedure provided us with a final list of prioritized communities. Now, this was a lot of information to go over, and I'll go over all of these steps in the subsequent slides. Next slide, please. In step one, the geographic boundaries of California communities were obtained from the U.S. Census Bureau. We used information based on the 2020 census, and based on the 2020 census, there are 1,611 California communities. Next slide. We ranked communities based on 2 categories of pesticides, fumigants and organophosphates. These groups of pesticides were included over others for 2 reasons. One, fumigants readily enter the gas phase. These 4 fumigants that are included in the site selection are also all restricted materials and are labeled as toxic air contaminants, which are pesticides that have additional mitigation measures associated with their use. Organophosphates, many of which are also restricted materials, were included in the site selection, and these were included because organophosphates share a common biological mechanism which can produce an additive effect in terms of their toxicity. However, to start, we needed to obtain pesticide use data of both groups of these pesticides, and use from 2020 to 2024 is included in this analysis. Next slide, please. After a pesticide is applied, some of it may emit into the air. The emission level for a pesticide is dependent on a variety of factors, such as weather and, most importantly, application method. This means how a pesticide is applied can change how much of that pesticide emits into the air. For fumigants, DPR has developed something called the emission fraction, which is the proportion of an applied fumigant that turns into an emission after it is applied. DPR has different emission factors for each application method for each fumigant. Fumigant use in pounds was multiplied by the emission factors in our site selection procedure. This better reflects how much of a fumigant enters the air. As an example, if a fumigant is applied using a totally impermeable film or TIF-TARP method, less is emitted into the air than if a pesticide is applied using a shallow injection method. Please note that organophosphate use was not adjusted due to the lack of data to support such adjustments. Next slide, please. In order to obtain a data on how many or the pesticide use around communities, we performed some geospatial data analysis. 4 overlapping zones were developed as part of this process to obtain use densities around the communities. So 4 different zones were created for fumigants and 3 different zones were created for the organophosphates. So there's the community zone, the local zone, the regional zone, and the greater regional zone. So for fumigants, we looked at use within the community boundaries to up to 10 miles outside the community boundaries. For organophosphates, we looked at use within community boundaries all the way up to 5 miles outside the community boundaries. This developed a use density for each community. That use density is then based on an average of all of the zones. The use density in each zone was adjusted based on average wind speed. Calmer winds result in less movement of a pesticide, so that is now reflected in our ranking. Next slide, please. This is just a visual representation of what I just talked about. So we did an overlay of the communities with the use data. So we overlaid the community boundaries on the pesticide with the pesticide use map, and we selected the communities that overlap with the pesticide use area. We did this for fumigants and we did this for organophosphates. Next slide, please. Moving on to step 3 in this process. Counties with existing AMN stations were removed from the prioritization. Selecting one monitoring site per county for the AMN ensures continuous evaluation across areas with diverse crop types, fumigation methods, use patterns, and weather conditions. We included this step in order to better represent all of California. Next slide, please. Now we're in step 4. Out of the 1,611 communities included in this analysis, DPR identified 823 communities that had fumigant use reported within 10 miles and 1,041 communities that had organophosphate use reported within 5 miles. Next slide. From those 823 communities, we now have 50 communities with the highest fumigant use. So we just took the top 50 from those 823. Next slide, please. From those 1,041 communities, we took the top 50 communities with the highest organophosphate use. Please be aware that some communities that are on the organophosphate list are also on the fumigant list. Next slide, please. Cal EnviroScreen version 4.0 by the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or OEHA, is designed to identify California communities more susceptible to a pollution burden. The communities identified in the pesticide use step were then ranked from 1 to 50 based on the highest average population characteristic score, or PC score, to account for environmental justice factors. PC percentile fields rates sensitive population indicators as well as socioeconomic factors. The higher the PC percentile, the more susceptible a community's population may be to a pollutant exposure. Next slide. So this is what the re-ranking looks like in practice. We took that list of ranked communities based on both fumigant use and organophosphate use, and then we re-ranked them according to the PC score. So for example, if the community with the highest fumigant use also had the highest PC score, it would remain at 1. If a community had the lowest organophosphate use, but the 25th highest PC score, it would be ranked at 25. This was done for both fumigants and organophosphates. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we took the top 50 communities based on fumigant use, and we had the top 50 communities based on organophosphate use, and we added them together to create a larger list. Like I said on a previous slide, we do have some communities that are ranked on both of these lists. Next slide. Now we're on step 6. We had to further prioritize which communities where we monitor. Our air monitoring network sites are all located at schools. We locate our monitors at schools because we want to measure pesticide concentrations where children are present. If a community had a school within a 1-mile radius, we then further identified those communities for inclusion in the AMN. Looking at the maps here, you can see that with this step, some communities dropped off our list. And this process identified 27 communities from the fumigant list and 28 communities from the organophosphate list. Next slide. To further identify communities to include in the air monitoring network, we decided to look at communities that were clustered around other top 50 communities. We based this on the number of other top 50 communities that were in 10-mile radius. This allows DPR to determine the optimal area for monitoring sites that represent a wider range of prioritized communities. Again, we only have a limited number of sites that we can expand to. So by selecting sites that are representative and meet the greatest need, they therefore have the highest priority. This process then identified 21 communities from the fumigant list and 23 communities from the organophosphate list, with the most communities near each other. This led us to our final proposed list of counties and communities. Next slide. Okay, so now we'll talk about those top ranked counties and communities. Next slide. We have 5 counties that we are prioritizing for placement for air monitoring network stations. We had ranked San Luis Obispo County and Santa Cruz County communities on our list. However, our existing AMN stations in Monterey and Santa Barbara counties are within 10 miles of San Luis Obispo County and Santa Cruz County, respectively. Therefore, we are proposing that we should not include stations in these 2 counties at this time. We therefore have 5 counties on this list. Tulare County had 27 communities in the top 50 for both fumigants and or organophosphates. And so it is priority category number 1 for DPR. Stanislaus County had 13 communities. We had 5 or 6 for Imperial and Siskiyou County. And then San Joaquin County had 2 communities within the top 50. So again, Tulare County is ranked number 1 for our priority category, and San Joaquin County, and Stanislaus is 2, Imperial is 3, Siskiyou is 4, and San Joaquin is 5. The next slides will have potential communities for the placement of the air monitoring network stations. Next slide, please. This map here shows the communities in Tulare County that were ranked high for pesticide use. We have three types of sites we want to highlight. Communities in blue ranked high for organophosphate and fumigate use. Communities in red ranked high for organophosphate use. And communities in green ranked high for fumigate use. These are the communities that we will potentially target based on feedback from public comment and logistical considerations. Next slide. This map here is for Stanislaus County, and it shows both organophosphate and fumigant communities, and then just solely fumigant communities that were ranked high for inclusion in the AMN. So mostly these were ranked high for fumigant use, but we have one community, Wesley, that was ranked high for both organophosphate and fumigant use. Next slide. Imperial County has 5 communities included for potential placement. 5 of the communities were ranked for organophosphate use only, while 1 was ranked for both organophosphate and fumigate use. Next slide. Siskiyou County has only 1 community that we are considering, which is Doris, which ranked high for fumigate use. Next slide. 2 communities in San Joaquin County will be considered for fumigant use, Lincoln Village and Taft Mosswood. Next slide, please. We are asking the public specific questions to help us determine where we should aim to place our monitors. Next slide. DPR has enough resources for up to 4 new AMN stations. DPR intends to go down the list beginning at the highest rank, rank 1, until funding is exhausted. Therefore, the proposed ranking of counties could mean that some locations may not be selected for a new AMN station at this time. Please provide feedback on the order of the ranking of these 5 counties, any other counties that should be considered, and any other factors DPR should consider. So this is question 1. Next slide. This is the second question. The second question is related to ranking communities in each county. Once the list of county priority is finalized, DPR will further evaluate the selected communities within each county to find the most appropriate location to host the AMN station. The appropriate locations are those accessible to sampling personnel on weekdays and weekends, have electrical outlets, and are secure from equipment loss or tampering. Please rank the communities within each county that you believe would be the most desirable location for monitoring, with a rank of 1 indicating the community being the most desirable. This is an example table for ranking, and it shows the Imperial County communities. One note about appropriate locations. We are going to target schools. The location must be on a school property or directly adjacent to a school property. If we determine there's a location we want to go, but there's no willing school partner or adjacent location partner, then the location may need to change. I wanted everyone to be aware of that there are limitations to this process. On our website, we have 2 papers. One is a prioritization framework, which has similar tables for the other ranked communities. And in the appendix of that paper, we share the complete list of the top communities. So we have this prioritization framework paper in both English and Spanish, and we will share those links in the slide. Next slide, please. We are in the middle of the public comment period for accepting comments on this prioritization process and accepting the rankings of both the counties and the communities. The public comment period opened about a month ago, and it goes until May 11th. So this QR code will take you to Smart Comment, where you can provide these comments to us. And we will also put the Smart Comment link in the chat. We're also accepting comments in both English and in Spanish. Next slide, please. So that's the end of this presentation. I will try to get to all of the questions here today, and if we don't, or if you have anything else that you'd like to discuss, you can email me here at this email address, or you can email the branch chief for the Environmental Monitoring Branch, Mazier. With that, thank you very much, and we can go to questions. All right, so we can start with questions that from the raised hands. So Sarah,
Yes. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. We have one raised hand, and it's Karen. Karen, I am going to unmute you. Please unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Karen Cameron, Concerned Salinas resident. I've been going through this for quite a while, and I'm trying to get some clarity in terms of you removed the air monitor in approximately 2017 from Salinas, Salad Bowl of the World, where we're getting so many spray days notifications and live with such an inundation. And I was a part of the Salinas Vision 2040 when the OEA draft map was released that showed the pesticide pollution burden near the area. And it was very concerning, deep purple. It looked like 90 to 100%, pesticide pollution burden. I'm looking over the environmental justice element of our Monterey County housing plan, and they have data in there for Cal and virus screen that shows the pesticide use in agricultural commodities. And while they're focusing on the disadvantage and they don't have data from Salinas in here, there are many communities, Baranda, Castroville, Moss Landing, Las Lomas, and so on, that are listing in the 99th percentile. So, as a concerned citizen, I'm wanting to know, how can I have trust in what I'm breathing? How can the Salinas community, on those other communities that are inundated, I do appreciate that you are looking at expansion and that you're expanding in the Fresno area, because I understand there's more pesticides per acre and per pound used in that area than even in Salinas, apparently. So I'm glad that you're going to do full monitoring there. I think it'll give you some vital data. But I'm really concerned in terms of how Salinas has been excluded from this process. And I would urge you, if you're only able to do this one county and you're going to exclude us based upon that, consider moving the one from Pajaro to Salinas at least, because I believe, is the salad bowl of the world, that we deserve this. And I raised this very question back on January 16th, 2025, when they had a hearing here from CDPR in Salinas. And it was Julie Henderson then that was the director, but she was sitting side by side the OEA director. And I asked them this very question: when can they return air monitoring to Salinas? So it's not like you're unaware of our concerns in the Salinas area. You're very aware of the advocacy from Safe Ag, Safe Schools, and so forth. So I appreciate you're locating it by the schools, but I think you really need to reconsider excluding certain areas based upon one in that county. Because if there are multiple areas in that county that justify it, and perhaps you're trying to put one in a county that has minimal use, then I think that needs to be a vital piece of your prioritization framework.
all right, thank you very much, Karen, for that comment. Those are a lot of good points. First of all, really encourage you to use our smart comment. So you can, like, it's everything that you just said, you can put in that smart comment and we'll evaluate that. And as a part of this, we also plan to evaluate differences between Pajaro Valley and Salinas Valley in terms of use there. So we can better look at the comparisons, excuse
I
me, between
think
both sites.
Thank you. I have used the Q&A and I'll put a little more in there, but it's a matter of urgency, because we've been dealing with no data for almost a decade. And when we deal with our Monterey County Ag Commissioner, quite frankly, everything is put off and blamed on the EPA. And we have an urgency for our health to find out what we're breathing. So whatever can be done, I greatly appreciate.
Thank you. All right, Sarah, do we have any other questions from raised hands?
Yes, the next person is Angel Garcia. Please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Thank you.
Okay. First, good evening. Angel Garcia with California Pesticide Reform. Just wanted to express strong support for the department's expansion of the air monitoring network. We particularly are in support of the selection of El Rancho and Tuliville as new sites for air monitors. We received feedback from community members in these areas expressing significant interest and appreciation for this possibility. Um, in addition to the existing sites in Santa Maria, Oxnard, Chapter, Pajaro, Delhi, I think Parlier, and yeah, having Tulare County be part of the expansion is simply an important next step in terms of data collection on as it pertains to air monitors. We also urge the department or DPR to keep Tulare as a top priority county for this expansion. And also on the note of Fresno County, we are also in support of the conversion of that existing site to expand it to make it a full monitoring station. And this upgrade will really enhance data collection and hoping that that also DPR takes into account as they're drafting any future rulemaking to certainly uh, take the high levels of T-loan that have been recorded as you know, touch points to really recalibrate the very incomprehensible uh, regulation on or current regulations that they have put forth on T-loan. Um, and then also just to reiterate the previous concern community leader and DPR needs to do more to elevate community concerns, and we hope that these concerns and questions and very valid points brought previously are taken into account by DPR. We are also going to be submitting um, a letter expressing strong support for um, the selection of communities, of particular communities in Tulare County. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, we'll look forward to reading that letter and any of the other comments that you submit. Sorry,
The
do we have
next,
any more? Oh, go
yes,
ahead.
the next person is Sarah. I am going to unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Sarah Aird, also with Californians for Pesticide Reform. I apologize because I was only able to attend the bit part of this presentation. So I have a question, and that is, or maybe before I get there, I will say, I'll just add on to what my colleague on health said, is that we're really excited and glad that there's going to be more permanent air monitoring. That's really important, especially considering how many pesticides are used in California. And it's sort of long overdue, really. So I'm very glad that there's going to be some more permanent air monitoring. But the question that I have is, if I understand correctly in the prioritization process, that one of the um, restrictions is that all the monitors are going to be placed at schools. And as I'm sure you're aware, our coalition has been really concerned about the impact of pesticides on children in particular. So I think that's incredibly important. And because there is a school buffer zone that does limit some usage around schools, I would just love to hear the rationale and reasoning for that a little bit more. And if there is any concern that by if I'm understanding correctly, by restricting air monitors to those locations, is that going to, in some instances, undercount the amount of pesticides that people are experiencing at residences and other locations that are near fields where there are no buffer zones? So I'd just like clarification on that, and apologies if you went over this and I just missed it.
Uh, Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, for your comments and then your question. We place our monitors at schools because of that's where children are and our most sensitive populations, children. And you raise a good question. That's a good technical question concerning the buffer zones and what might exposure be at those schools versus residences. So we'll take that into consideration when looking at where we place our monitors. So I definitely encourage you to also submit that as a comment as well.
Okay, we have Kathleen. Next person, please unmute and ask your question. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Kathleen Kilpatrick. I live in Watsonville, and I just want to just reinforce that the monitor that was previously called the Watsonville monitor and is now called the Pajaro monitor, or Pajaro monitor, as you will, is in the Pajaro Valley and reflective of levels in the Pajaro Valley. For some reason, because of our Valley spanning two counties, both Santa Cruz and Monterey County are supposed to be covered by this monitor. I kind of reinforced Karen's point that the agricultural crops and chemicals used in the Salinas Valley are not necessarily the same as what they are in the Pajaro Valley. There certainly is overlap, but especially with respect to row crops, I would think there might be some differences between the Salinas Valley and the Pajaro Valley. So that is something that this monitor will not reflect. I already submitted some written comments, but I just want to say again, you looked at population characteristics in Cal Environmental Screen, but you really didn't look at pollution burden. So I would give Imperial County a pretty high rating. I think Tulare is tops. I think Stanislaus deserves its #2 ranking, but definitely Imperial County. If you can find a place for a monitor there, they have an incredibly high pollution burden in that area, and in spite of, and also quite a high socioeconomic burden as well. So I'm a little confused about Doris because it's in an area that has very little population, and it does have, to me, Doris would be a perfect place to take your mobile monitor and try it out. And I did say that in my comments because I think your mobile monitor also can do some in-ground monitoring, and they have some crops there that would be good targets. The berry starts, the potatoes, and the some of the hay crops, the alfalfa and all that, just to see what's going on in the ground as well as what's going on in the air. So I vote for mobile monitoring in Siskiyou County, and then San Joaquin moves up a notch to get higher priority.
All right, Kathleen, thank you again for those comments. Yes, as I mentioned earlier to Karen, we will be looking and investigating differences in use patterns between Salinas Valley and Pajaro Valley in more detail because of these comments. And then, yes, I think all of those are valid points about the other counties in our ranking. So thanks for including those in smart comment. And yeah, I think one of the reasons that we're including Siskiyou County in this is because, it represents different use patterns. And so we'll be able to get that really valuable data if it is included, either as a full AMN station or for mobile monitoring, whatever it ends up we deciding based on comments and the rankings.
We have one.
Oh,
Yes, we have
great.
one more. Hand raised. Lupe, I'm gonna unmute you. Please ask your question and unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Okay, there. Oh, I'm sorry for my picture. Hi, everyone. My name's Lupe Gonzalez. I am from Tulare County. I live in Lindsay, but I frequent the area of El Rancho. And so that area is, I mean, I'm thankful that you guys are wanting to bring air monitors here. El Rancho is a small little town. It has a school within, I believe it's a quarter-mile radius, and it has a lot of fields. I mean, there's fields, there's a packing house, and then there's a school with homes in between. So I think that it's very important to have this area monitored. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, I think that was that the last hand raised, Sarah?
Yes, that was, well, actually, no. Omar just raised his hand.
Okay.
I'm gonna unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, Omar. Go ahead.
Hello. My question is I wanted to ask how often are these monitors collecting data, and can the public access real-time air monitoring data, and if not, why?
So we collect data once a week at each of these sites for all 52 weeks a year. We don't collect real-time monitoring data because we don't have those capabilities. So what we do is we set up samples, we collect that data, we drive it back to Sacramento, and we submit it to our laboratory. We post results, air monitoring results to our website in our pesticide air monitoring results database quarterly. So we have those quarterly updates. And what we can do is we can share that website in the chat so you can access that data. So if Jimmy, you could share our air monitoring website. Great, thank you. Oh, Jasmine, thank you very much for doing so. And so you can access that data, and again, is updated quarterly.
Next, we have Christina Gutierrez. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Cristina Gutierrez, CPR organizer, and also a CAPS members in the Lindsay area. As a community leader, I've had the opportunity to talk to a few members from the area in Lindsay, and some being from El Rancho, and they're excited to know that this might be a possibility to have um, um, a AMN in their area monitoring the air quality. So I'm excited, and so is the community in the Tulare area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can go to the Q&A box questions. So Aisha, what are those questions?
So the first question we have is an attendee asking, I'd like
Oh, Aisha, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The first question in the Q&A box is from an anonymous attendee who asked, I'd like to request a copy of the data/analysis for communities in Stanislaus County, and they've included their email.
Okay, yeah, Bianca, I can email you.
The next question in the Q&A box is from Bianca Lopez, and she asked, can you come to these communities to discuss these results?
So I think this is a question that I can have Madison help me out with. Thank you.
Thanks, Bianca. At this point in time, we have presented this at the PRAC and here at the public meeting, and I believe we're also going to the EJAC at Celia on the 24th. If additional meetings are requested and necessary, we can take that into consideration. But right now, that's the current plan.
The next question we have is also from Bianca Lopez, and she asked, can you tell me how many people have joined this webinar?
25. All right. And then the next question.
Yes, the next question we have is from Karen, and she says, per Callan virus screen data cited in EJ element of Monterey County draft housing plan, most of the census tracts identified as disadvantaged communities in Monterey County exceed the 75% for Callan virus screen pesticides indicator. But there is no data from Salinas. We don't know what we're breathing.
Yep, thank you. I think we answered that question live. All right, we have another question.
Yes, Omar asks, how accurate are these monitors if they only collect data once a week, and why does it not collect more than just once a week?
Okay, so we've done some analysis on whether on collecting data once a week versus collecting data in more often, and we found that once a week for long-term monitoring is sufficient statistically. And the second part of your question, why not collect more than once a week? There are just limitations to how much data that we can collect in terms of like traveling to these sites and working with our laboratory and whatnot. When we do a seasonal monitoring study where we're collecting data over the period of weeks during a high use season, we collect data more often. But for this long-term monitoring study, we found that once a week is sufficient for getting the data that we need to evaluate pesticide concentrations and exposures in the ambient air. Okay.
Daniela, we have one raised hand.
Okay, we can go to that question.
Bianca, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thank you. Hi, Anila. Thank you for answering those questions. My concern is the community input from directly those communities that you are discussing and exploring the expansion of the air monitoring network. It was mentioned that there has already been a presentation at the PREC meeting, which is on a Friday at 10 a.m., where community members are not available. The EJAC hasn't happened. Your public comment period ends shortly after the presentation to the EJAC. And 25 people doesn't seem like a good number for input at this presentation. And so I just feel like it would be important to bring this presentation specifically to the communities that you're considering to expand into for real information sharing, and then also real community engagement and feedback and input from those communities. And I'm not sure if Omar's question, I think I wanted a clarification on your answer. The monitors are collecting data every day, but you're only picking up the data, like physically picking it up once a week, or is it only reading the data like on a Monday and then you're picking that up? I wanted to get some clarification on that. And
Yeah. So for the first question, this presentation, it's recorded and we're going to be posting it to our YouTube in both English and Spanish. And so when it's posted, I can share those links with you so you can share it with folks in your community. And it'll be like released on our website as well. So, and these slides of this presentation are also currently on our website. So we collect data once a week. And so we have to physically set up sorbent, like these sorbent tubes, which basically trap the pesticide on these tubes. And so we set up one 24-hour sample once a week. So we have to physically go there, set that sample up on the sampling pup, and then we come back 24 hours later and we collect that data. And we take some measurements to ensure the quality of that data as well. And those are typically flow measurements to make sure that the flow rate is constant and whatnot.
Daniela, I want to maybe add to the response to the first comment from Bianca. So the comment period has been open for 60 days, and as you noted, we'll be presenting at EJAC. And as Agnella noted, this will be posted on YouTube, the transcripts, all the information as well. Again, we are taking everything into consideration. So if after the 60-day comment period is over, we receive comments or it's warranted that we extend the comment period, again, we're taking kind of all of that into consideration at this point in time. And then once again, we'll further assess if additional webinars are needed or, as you mentioned, if there's a need for an in-person, we'll take it into consideration, but there's a lot of other factors that we have to balance as well. But I do want to acknowledge, Bianca, that your comment is heard, and we will further discuss that and get back to folks on that question. Celia, did you want to add anything to that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is after 7, but I see we have a couple of questions. I think we can take those and then we can end the workshop after that. Okay. So we can go to that final question. It looks like in the Q&A box.
Yes, so Cal asked, instead of 4 high-end monitors, why not several lower cost monitors to collect data? Isn't some data better than no data?
So that's a very good question. I love getting data, as much data as possible. Unfortunately, like there really is no lower cost options available since basically these are samples, they have to be returned back to the laboratory and extracted using chemicals to get the pesticides, and then that's then run on certain machines. Those machines cost a lot of money. Unfortunately, we don't have any lower cost options. And so what we're trying to do again with the money that we were given from the legislature as part of this is just try to really maximize what we can do with the funds that we were given. And this is what we have come up with. Of course, I always wish we could get more data. Like the scientist in me loves that. But we're gonna try to do our best to get as much data, good data as possible. Okay. Um, okay, so we are it is 7:04. And so if there are any other questions, my email address is on this slide, or my boss, my branch chief's email address as well. You can email him. Please submit any other comments that you might have to our Smart Comment website. Thank you everyone for your attendance today and very good questions. You'll hear from us soon. Thank you. Can end that.